All right, later on in this video, I talk about a retention ring in here that's only finger tight. I think it's actually, I got it a little loose, so I'm taking this back off. But anyway, later you have to watch the rest of the videos. I got it spliced together on how to change the rotor and all that. This is just how to disassemble this four-wheel drive so you can get to all that. So obviously take your wheel off. This is your four-wheel drive, 14 millimeter. And the problem is it rotates. So the way I did this, just put a lug nut on. I have a breaker bar, so if you don't have this set up, I'm not sure what you're gonna do, but this is the easiest way I found to do it. And then you just set that down there, and then it gives you something to push against. So get these all loosened up. I'm gonna pause this till I get these done. Okay, this is where hopefully this video will help you. This is your, obviously your hub. Once you get this all loosened up, 14 millimeter. I don't know what the torque on these are. When I tighten them up, I just tighten them good and snug, because this is what's putting your car in a four-wheel drive. It's gear on this hub, so you got to make sure it's good and sturdy. So that whole piece just comes off, and here's where hopefully this video will help you. And later on in the video, I talk about some of these parts. But when I put it back together, but this is what you want to mess with. Like I said, I'm going to get to that ring and show you where it is. I only had it was finger tight when I took it off, and I only put it back finger tight. But then when I was driving at highway speeds, especially the other side had a vibration, so it wasn't all the way snugged up. So that's holding your bearings in. So I'll show you here in a minute. You want to get that snugged up. So there's a retention ring in here. Got to pop that off. I've used spreaders on it. I've screwdriver, just whatever you can do to get that off. Do not lose that retention ring. So retention ring right there. When I put it back on, I actually squeezed it back with a pair of channel locks because it got bent a little bit. Then there's another ring in here, and everything's going to be super greasy, so it's going to be all stuck together. There's a real kind of a soft ring in here that you have to get out. Same thing, make sure you do not lose that. You will never get your car back together or in four-wheel drive. Okay, so now this piece just comes off. Like I said later in the video, this ring, do not remove this ring. You will never get that piece back together. So that just comes off in one piece, like that. These tabs, when you put it back together, they go in here. That's what locks your four-wheel drive in. So when you get it back together, these little tabs have to go in these notches. You won't be able to put it together like without that anyway. This ring with the teeth right here. And this is where I think I got it too loose. So there's 3 little retention screws in this. And this ring is what holds your, basically your bearing from being able to come off. And on the other side, one of these was almost stripped, so be careful with these. Don't strip them out. I'm not sure where you'd find new ones. Okay, so then this is just a locking ring. Same thing, all this is greasy, so you're gonna have a heck of a time getting some of this off of here, so it's all stuck together. Okay, so locking ring. Obviously these notches go there. This ring here threads on. Watch later in the video, I show myself threaded on there. So this ring threads on, but see how it's loose? I had it too loose. That's where I was getting that vibration, because that's holding all the bearings in under the rotor. So as far as changing the rotor and the brakes, all that, you'll have to watch later in the video. I've got it kind of spliced together. It's not that great, but you can see how to do the rotor and stuff. So I'm just doing this part so you can see it, because I was a little wrong. So this ring has to be snugger than you think. So I'm trying to get that one screw retention hole. So yeah, I just use a screwdriver, put it in the hole. Be careful you don't strip it out. And I got one of the retention screws lined up with that notch, because like I said, if that's holding your whole bearing in. So I had it loose. I had a vibration at highway speeds because that bearing wasn't super tight. So once you get that back together, if you're putting it together, I'd recommend re-greasing all your parts. So there you go. So then that one of the retention screws should line up with that top hole there. And yeah, so like I said, later in the video, I say just get that finger tight. That ain't it. So make sure you get it snug. I said what seems about right is that top hole lining up right with that notch. And I got these pretty snug, because like I said, this is what's basically, it's keeping that ring from unthreading and letting your bearing come off of the axle there. So once you get these in, obviously those notches, that wrong hole, then it can't thread because these are screwed together. Okay, then this, obviously you have the two notches there go in as well, the same spot. Give it a little grease. It's already pretty well greased up, but give it a little more grease. Sorry about the breathing hard. So then those obviously go same thing in those notches right there. Then this piece goes on. It goes on just as one piece, and said those should line up with in all right, get on there. There we go. Okay. So like I said, those notches obviously have to go in there. This is the part. It's a little bit of a bitch. So put a screw in here. I think it's 5/16. Just so you can hold that axle out a little bit. Forget your little retention ring. That's just that solid ring. It goes on. Like I said, this is kind of a pain in the ass. This is that other ring. This one's a little bent, so just took some channel locks. Tried to tighten it up a little bit. It's bent a little bit when I took it off. Don't super crank it, but a little bit just to get a little tighter. That fits over there, and getting that on is kind of a pain in the ass. So I just used a couple screwdrivers. Last time I used some spreaders. This time I just used some screwdrivers and kind of spread it on there. That seemed to work okay. You should get it on, once you get it around the edge, it slips on pretty good, but getting that thing around the edge is kind of a pain in the ass. But yeah, there's a little groove in the end of that. It's basically your axle that this fits into. So the way I found last I did on the other side was I got the one end on. Look. All right, I think I got it. Oh, fuck. Had it. Nope, lost it. So that should lock back on there. There it goes, there. And it should snap right on there. Make sure it's snapped on that in its groove. Should be able to rotate once it's snapped in its groove. Yeah, okay, cool. All right, so that's it basically. So like I said, take this bolt out, but you got the ring in there. Said do not ever remove this ring. You will never get that piece back together. It just comes off in one piece. You got the retention ring, that little mini ring, this just comes off. Then that other geared one, the locking ring with the 3 screws, and then that inner ring threads on. If you watch later in the video, you'll be able to see it. Thread that on tight. That holds your bearings and all that apart. So when you do the brakes, if you're doing the rotors, you got to take all that off and you got to pull this rotor. That's later in the video. Anyway, I hope this helps. One last note, when you're putting this thing back together, same thing for putting this, snugging this back up, because you can't do it with your wheel on, so there's no way to get any, because this will rotate. So I just put my breaker bar with one lug on and just wedge it against the ground so I can get some torque on this thing. Same thing, I have no idea what the torque on this is, but remember, this is your locking hub that's putting me in 4-wheel drive, so I'd make sure it's good and snug, but you don't want to strip it. So probably could find the torque somewhere online, I have no idea. But anyway, hopefully that's a little tip for that. And then obviously just your wheel back on the road. 1994 Honda Passport. If you're trying to do the front rotors, I looked on YouTube, there's nothing, so I'm going to post this halfway into this job. You're gonna have to kind of watch it. I'll put it back together in reverse so you can see, but there's nothing, so I figured I'd at least post this. Here I am, I've got the hub off, and you'll have to watch the end when I put it back together to see how it goes back together. But basically at this point, once you get to here, you have to pull your caliper, and then obviously your caliper mount, and then I'll show you how to pull this off in the order of everything, because this is a nightmare job. Okay, once you get your caliper off, use your caliper mounting bolts. They're 22 millimeter, so you're gonna have to use a breaker bar to get those off. Okay, once you get to this point, this is the order the stuff comes off in. Get your outer bearing. Then you got your rotor comes off. All right, that whole thing just comes off. There's your other bearing. Basically you have to unbolt this, pull it off, put the rotor back on. Okay, so you have to loosen these up. The problem is there's no way to hold your rotor. So what I did is I literally stood on the rotor, took a breaker bar, put it on like this, and then just hit it with a rubber hammer until it broke loose. It's about the only way you're going to do that. Okay, once you're here, these are, remove all these bolts, 17 millimeters. And that'll break your bearing loose from your rotor. You can see they're bolted together right there. Your new one will have those bolt holes, so I'll work on getting that off. Probably have to hit it with the rubber hammer to get it to break loose. Okay, once you get it off the front axle or whatever, this is what it's going to look like. And you have to get the rotor off the back here. So what I did was put it on a piece of wood. Get a little better, yeah, a little light. Put it on a piece of wood and just beat it with a hammer. Put a little penetrating oil on the back, let it sit for a few, and then beat it with the hammer. Then you'll end up with this. And then the rotor can just slide right off. Done. Then you got your new rotor. Has to bolt back on. Show that here when it's done. All right, this is it. New rotor's on. Oh, don't forget to clean your rotor. It's gonna get all dirty when you do this. Basically to freaking bolt it down because there's no way to do it. I just did reverse. Took this breaker bar, put it on there, just hit it with a rubber hammer as tight as I could get it. Maybe once it's on, when you have somebody hold the brakes, you could crank it down, but that should be pretty good. Don't forget to clean the rotor, like I said, and then don't forget to re-grease all your shit, and then this will just go right back over the axle like this. Just goes right on. Goes right on like that. Then I'll show the other parts when I get to them. Okay, got it back on, and goes out your outer bearing. Don't forget to re-grease it. Push it back, goes right on there. Here's your pieces in order. Put on this inner ring. You can tell it goes on because it's threaded in the middle. And that goes on, that just threads on here. And when I took it off, it just threaded right off with my hand. It's not tight. So yeah, I'm just gonna go tight. It was just finger tight. It literally unthreaded all by itself. All right, then you got this ring, and it's got little grooves in it because there's 3 little screws. See the 3 little holes in this ring? There's 3 little holes. There's 3 little set screws that would go there. So you always got to get that lined up, which I'm not. Let's get your screw holes lined up there. There you go. And those line up, and then there's 3 little set screws that'll go in there. Don't lose them when you take them off, and that keeps all this locked in so it can't come off. Here's what those screws look like. They're just teeny little set screws. One of them was kind of stripped, so be careful when you take them out. Okay, 3 little set screws in. Next, this piece goes like that. Little notches is the teeth out, and there's 2 little notches it fits in right there. Okay, once you get to this part, you got the teeth in. This piece all comes out as one piece. whatever you do, do not take this ring off. I did it on the other side before I figured out how to get everything off. It took me hours to put this back together because there's spring loaded and everything will go flying. So do not take that off. But this goes next, and you can see these little notches go in the little notches here. It should fit on there like that. Then the next part is this ring goes on here. There's a little ring, don't lose that either. And then this retaining ring goes around this thing and it retains it. So I'm gonna have to do that. And this has a bolt threads in it. So I think you can screw a bolt to pull this because that thing comes back and forth. That's what puts it in four-wheel drive. So anyway, then this retaining ring. Then your hub cover goes on. Then your hub cover, and it just bolts on, and then you're there. Then your typical caliper, brake pads, all the regular stuff. So that's how you take that thing apart. So like I said, don't lose that little ring. And that retaining ring goes right on there and holds everything on. Okay, to get this retainer ring on, you can see that shaft will go back and forth a little bit, so I screwed this bolt in there so I could pull on it, and then this piece pushes back. I just put a couple